The river glimmered under the moonlight, soft and silver as a secret unspoken. It wound through Redstone Valley like a ribbon of memory, whispering stories only the stars could hear. That night, the air was heavy with the scent of sage and the slow hum of crickets, a song of loneliness and longing. Nayeli Riverbird, just 20 and as beautiful as the dawn after a storm, knelt at the water's edge. Her long, dark hair spilled like ink over her shoulders, glinting where the moon touched it. She had come alone, away from her tribe's fires and her father's stern voice, to listen to the river, the only place where her heart felt its own rhythm. Every ripple reminded her that life kept moving forward, even when one's spirit felt trapped. But peace, like the river, can change without warning. From the shadowed trees, the rustle of leaves became laughter, rough, sharp, wrong. Nayeli turned. A group of men stepped out of the darkness, outlaws, their eyes glassy with drink, their boots crunching the dry reeds. One of them grinned, his teeth yellow under the moon. "Well now," he drawled, "ain't every night we find a princess bathing by the river?" Nayeli stood, clutching her necklace of turquoise stones, her heart pounding. She said nothing, though fear rose in her throat like smoke. One reached for her wrist, his fingers dirty and hard. She tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. Then came the thunder of hooves. The outlaws turned, startled, as a horse burst from the trees. The rider was broad-shouldered, his silhouette cutting against the moonlight like a carving from legend. He dismounted in a single motion, boots hitting the ground with a heavy thud. His name was Wyatt Callahan, 30 years old, a giant of a cowboy with hands roughened by work and eyes that carried the weight of too many empty horizons. He didn't shout. He didn't draw right away. He simply looked at the men, his voice calm as a blade being unsheathed. "Let her go." One laughed. "Or what, cowboy? She yours." Wyatt stepped closer. The night seemed to pause, listening. Then the outlaw lunged. The fight that followed was brief, brutal, and quiet in its fury. Wyatt's fists spoke more clearly than his words ever could. Dust rose, men groaned, water splashed, and in moments it was over. The outlaws fled, their curses fading into the trees. Wyatt stood breathing hard, blood on his knuckles, moonlight on his face. He turned toward Nayeli, whose hands still trembled. "You all right, miss?" "I think so," she whispered. Her voice was soft, careful. "My heart, it hasn't caught up yet." Wyatt smiled faintly, the tension easing from his shoulders. "It'll slow down. Give it time." The river gurgled beside them, as if to agree. He offered his hand. She hesitated, then placed hers in his. It felt small and warm, and for a strange moment, neither wanted to let go. He led her to his horse, a chestnut mare with a white blaze down her nose. "Name's Dustfire," he said as he lifted Nayeli gently into the saddle. "She's calmer than she looks." "Like her rider?" Nayeli asked softly, a small smile tugging at her lips. Wyatt chuckled once, surprised by her courage. "Maybe." They rode under the moonlight, slow and silent. The valley stretched before them, wide and wild, scented with pine and dust. Nayeli sat before him, her hair brushing against his jaw whenever the horse shifted. Every movement felt like a word unsaid. He didn't ask who she was. He didn't need to. The way she carried herself, the silver jewelry, the quiet strength. He already knew she was someone the world would tell him to stay away from. When they reached the edge of her tribe's camp, torches flickered like watchful eyes. He stopped there, reluctant to break the spell of the journey. "You'll be safe now," he said. Nayeli looked at him, the firelight painting her face gold. "You never told me your name." "Wyatt," he said simply. "And you?" he asked. "Nayeli." He repeated it once, quietly, as if testing its weight. "Beautiful name." "Good night, Wyatt," she said. Her voice was a whisper, but it lingered. "Good night, Nayeli." He watched her walk back into her world, her shadow vanishing behind the campfires. And for reasons he couldn't explain, Wyatt knew he'd never be the same again. Days passed. Wyatt tried to forget her, but she lingered in his thoughts like a song he couldn't stop humming. He'd wake at dawn and look toward the river, half expecting to see her there, sunlight in her hair. He worked his fields, mended his fences, broke wild horses, but every quiet moment brought her back. And one evening, when the sky burned copper over the hills, he rode to the river again. She was there. Naeli stood barefoot in the shallows, the water lapping around her ankles. Her reflection trembled beside her, fragile and perfect. She turned when she heard him approach, and for a long moment neither spoke. "I thought I'd imagined you," she said softly. Wyatt dismounted, holding his hat in his hands. "Guess we both did some imagining." Her smile faded into something wistful. "You shouldn't have come. My father, he wouldn't understand." "I don't care if he understands," Wyatt said. "I just couldn't stay away." The wind stirred her hair, lifting it like a veil. "You're a fool, Cowboy." "Probably," he said. "But I'd rather be a fool for you than wise for anyone else." For a heartbeat, she almost reached for him. Almost. Then she looked away. "We are from different worlds, Wyatt." He stepped closer, his voice low. "Then we'll create our own world." The river carried his words downstream, soft as a promise. But promises, she knew, didn't always survive the daylight. When she returned to camp, her father's eyes were waiting, sharp and knowing. Chief Tahoma was a proud man, his years carved into his face like marks of stone. "You were at the river again," he said. "Yes," Naeli answered. "With the cowboy." She didn't deny it. Silence was enough. He turned away, his jaw tight. "You shame yourself, and you shame me. That man is not of our people. His kind cannot understand our ways." Naeli's voice trembled. "He understands more than you think." Chief Tahoma's hand clenched around his staff. "You will not see him again." That night, Wyatt made a decision. He rode before dawn, the mist still low on the valley floor. When he reached the camp, the guards raised their spears, but he called out calmly, "I mean no harm." The chief came forward. Wyatt removed his hat, his voice steady. "I love your daughter," he said. "And I want to marry her." A hush fell over the camp. Warriors exchanged uneasy glances. The chief's face turned to stone. "That's impossible," he said. "Our worlds are not the same. Leave this place." Wyatt's throat tightened, but he didn't bow. "I'll leave," he said quietly, "but my heart stays here." As he turned to go, Naeli stepped from her tent, eyes wide with sorrow. Their gazes met, brief, aching, enough to last a lifetime. Then he was gone, the sound of his horse fading into the distance. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Naeli's father busied himself with preparations for trade. The tribe began its journey across the plains, heading toward the canyons. But fate was waiting there. The same outlaws who had fled that moonlit night returned, thirsting for vengeance. They ambushed the caravan as it wound through the narrow pass. Gunfire shattered the calm. Horses reared. Warriors fell. Naeli screamed as rough hands seized her once again. Chief Tahoma fought with all his strength, but there were too many. Dust rose, bullets sang. And then, over the hill, a sound like hope. Oh, Wyatt. He had been following them, unable to let go, unwilling to live in a world without her. He charged into the chaos, revolver flashing. His movements were pure fury and grace, every shot precise. He dismounted, swung his rifle, fought with his bare hands when the bullets ran out. When the dust finally settled, the outlaws were gone, scattered like leaves. Wyatt stood bleeding, his chest rising with ragged breath. Naeli ran to him, tears cutting through the dirt on her face. "You again," she whispered. He grinned weakly. "Told you I'd find you anywhere." Behind them, Chief Tahoma watched. His eyes, once hard as iron, softened. He saw not an intruder, but a man who had risked everything for love. Slowly, the old chief approached and laid a hand on Wyatt's shoulder. "My own warriors could not protect my daughter," he said quietly. "But you did. You are the one worthy of her." Wyatt bowed his head. For the first time in years, he felt something break open inside him, a quiet kind of peace. That night, under a sky crowded with stars, the tribe gathered by the river. The air smelled of cedar smoke and rain. Drums thumped softly, and firelight flickered on faces smiling through tears. Nayeli wore a dress of river silk, her long hair braided with feathers. Wyatt stood beside her, awkward in his clean shirt and boots polished for the first time in months. When the chief bound their hands with a cord of woven grass, the crowd murmured blessings. As the ceremony ended, Wyatt leaned close, his voice a whisper meant only for her. "You once said, 'We are from different worlds.' But I said, 'Then we'll create our own world.'" Nayeli smiled through tears. "And we did." He kissed her gently. Then he lifted her into his arms, placed her on Dustfire's back, and rode toward the hills. The moonlight followed them like a guardian, washing the land in silver. At his small cabin, wildflowers grew among the stones. They dismounted, hands still entwined, and stepped into the garden. The music from the camp echoed faintly in the distance, a lullaby carried by the wind. Wyatt turned to her, his voice hushed. "Dance with me." Barefoot in the grass, under a sky of quiet stars, they danced. The world seemed to pause, holding its breath for them. And when the river's distant murmur reached their ears, it sounded almost like laughter, like the land itself was blessing what it had witnessed. That night they began the life they had promised each other. Not the life their worlds had planned, but one they built with their own hands, their own courage, their own love. And if you ever find yourself standing by a river at dusk, when the moon glows low and the water hums softly, you might hear it, the faint echo of two hearts beating together, still building a world no one could take from them.